to say, because again, they're not scoring it by these performance matrix in tier 2. But I will say to you, as a permanent supportive housing project, this is a general statement, not about American Family Housing, but permanent supportive housing, you must be homeless and you must be disabled. If you're disabled and you're on disability, your income's not going to change. You know, Social Security might do a cost of living increase once a decade. So you may not see a lot of increases in income in this specific population that permanent supportive housing projects are serving. So it is kind of there's a lot to look at in the details.
Is there a staff recommendation?
Well, the staff recommendation was to reallocate.
And we still have that recommendation?
Susan, what does your gut tell you?
So I have a first and I have a second on to non-reallocate.
Who? Did I have a first and a second again?
David and Carol.
First was David or David? Oh, okay.
Scott, we have to decide today.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Because we're in a timeline.
Yeah.
So you have a motion second, so then yes.
Discussion. Any further discussion?
Scott, can I just ask you real quick, because I'm looking, it was you and Kim that went the other way in the ad hoc.
Right.
Can you just kind of touch that?
I can, and I had dialogue with Kim about this extensively since the meeting. The point at that point was to reallocate so we could have the discussion at this meeting. And we're very much in favor of the decision of the group. So that was, we wanted this to be the dialogue with the commission as a whole. We brought the question because we were following, at that point, specific staff members' recommendation and had not had the input from Susan or from Susan Hudson that. And Sister Regina as well in the dialogue too. I want to make sure that I acknowledge Sister Regina. So did that help clarify that? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Could you state the motion, please?
So the motion is to not reallocate the American Family Housing Project per David and seconded by Carol. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Okay. Any abstentions? I assume the three that are not in the room. Okay. So Donna and your team. Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes, please.
Just talking about it.
Yes, please.
So, with this then, is there any suggestion to American Family Housing of how to improve their status in these two areas? Is there any staff assistance? Is there any ad hoc to work with them to pull it together?
And absolutely, and speaking on behalf of Donna and all the others, that is the direction we have to go, working with every agency on improving our system performance.
Because given some of the information that Donna presented, I mean, there's some givens that go with the people, and we're
Correct.
about ending homelessness of those people, but it's the technicalities.
Correct. And one of the key things is there gets to be a point when the data gets pulled, and everybody has to be on the page before that data is pulled to make sure that it's absolutely correct, that they've drilled into it. And that takes staff time, that takes a little time. So that would be 211 and the county staff working with each of these programs, including the American Family Housing, to make sure the data is correct.
I just want to make one observation, that there are 41 agencies listed, and just a thought was, if those people don't qualify and they're jeopardizing the whole program, if each of the other providers took one person, they could start fresh and get people that do qualify and fit, and then don't become a liability to the allocations. Just an observation.
Don, I know you wanted to speak on item 2. Do you want to speak at this point, or when we get to the reallocation question?
I just wanted to point out that the decision made by the 3 providers on the commission to leave, we have other providers in the room, and I would encourage you to use us as a resource if you have a question about the provider experience. That was all.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, moving down to this, as you look at recommendation number 3, it's what do we do with the reallocated dollars? So now we have a different component because we don't have 2 projects that are being reallocated, roughly $500,000. We have only 1. And so the recommendation from the ad hoc committee to consider was the 2 together, and it was to create a permanent housing bonus project of roughly, the 2 projects combined. And that was the recommendation. The question or the concern that I have is with only $150,000, that's not enough to go into a permanent housing, a new bonus project. So it kind of voids this recommendation at this point. So there's a question of what do we reallocate the John Henry dollars to, since we don't have the 2 projects together. So I want to make sure that people see this. So we have potentially a new opportunity to do something different with those dollars. And David.
Just really high level, wouldn't we give it to the highest probability of success, best performing?
Well, it can't be added to one of the other projects, the existing projects.
What are the options then?
So Susan or Juanita, what are the options that we have for us?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, go ahead, that's fine.
A new permanent supportive housing project or a rapid rehousing project. Seems like a very small dollar amount to really have an impact. The supportive service only for coordinated entry, which in 2015, the Orange County Continuum received a coordinated entry grant in the amount of $900,000 and some change awarded to 211. Or to HMIS, Homeless Management Information Systems, for which 211 is also the recipient of the HMIS program in the amount of $499,000 and some change. So those are the 4 eligible options for the Orange County Continuum at this time.
And what would move us farther ahead the fastest? Karen, that's kind of a Karen question.
Well, I would say, and I think it's one of the things Susan has seen as well, is that what HUD has done in terms of coming down and asking for additional reporting and the different things we need to do to support the agencies and such. We do need additional help in HMIS. We haven't had any increase in that since we originally applied.
Would that some roundabout way help American Family Housing with their issues?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that we're working on that to make sure that, so HMIS is kind of an unwieldy beast, and it's an understatement. And so one of the things that we're working on is figuring out a way that we can give the EDs a dashboard that allows them on a monthly basis to see where they're at, and to be able to pull those reports instead of having to have their staff that are in the weeds with it come to them and say, I think we might have a problem. It's something that would flag them so that prior to going through this whole process of analysis, they would have the ability to fix their issues. It would make it a little bit easier, I think, for the agencies.
My opinion, I feel that if we can put that money into something that's going to give us the benefit of helping our agencies to be able to get their data together where they can rank higher and we can be more solid on when we put that supernova in, I think that that's where the money should go, because some of our agencies, it's not that they're not doing the job, it's just HUD's system is like water in a storm, and it changes consistently, and we need to be prepared. And one of the things we always fall short on is not having enough data for this precise group, because they're busy doing what needs to be done, but they don't always have it where they know how to collect the data or what to do with it when they collect it. And one of the things we need to do is get all of our data for every agency in this county, including the county, where it is like that, where when it hits HUD's office, they say, wow, because we have been an example in numerous times for the whole HUD system. And we're falling behind on our data. Our performance is good, but we don't always report it the way it needs to be reported, that it can get their attentions and say, give us some more dollars.
So,
So,
sorry, Carolyn, go.
I'm going to reality plan in the United States.
Second.
Is there a second? Second, yeah. I do have a question, since Dawn offered herself, as a provider in the room, on this person's second, to reallocate the John Henry dollars. I want to get a perspective from the provider.
I would just, from a provider standpoint, say that $150,000 is not too little. We can do some good. We had a $67,000 PSH grant that we eventually combined with another grant. That was 3 new units. That was 3 people off the street. There are some issues within some of our programs that could be addressed with small amounts of money. We have a shared housing PSH project that has people in 2-bedroom apartments. We're finding problems with those roommate situations, and if we had a small amount of money, we could solve that problem and get everybody into single units. So I don't think it's accurate to say that there's not good PSH work that could be done with these funds. Not to put any sort of a value judgment on one or the other, but I don't think it's accurate to say it wouldn't do some good in the PSH world.
Do we have to submit something to comment?
I'm speaking through Dawn. Dawn, want to get the floor?
Go.
Okay. But I think also, I do agree that the amount may be small, but if you looked at even a large project, a small component of it is not that dissimilar as far as the amount invested. But I think Catherine does have a point, and I think, Scott, you said overall, our system is a very low scoring, or is not high performing, but then I don't think any system, I understand in the US, is in that high performing category. But when Donna looked at her scoring, it actually does not reflect reality. And I'm sure if we looked at our data, I don't know what our scores were at all. It's a black box that we're not privy to apparently. But I'm sure if we looked at it, we're probably not presenting our data accurately neither. And it doesn't really present the story behind the data as well. So that's where I think, and we don't have the funding necessarily to be able to hire someone to look at the data. We only get, 10% admin dollars. So having support at HMIS level to really sit down with all of the nonprofits, and this sort of goes to what Billy O'Connell mentioned as well, really not having the gotcha moments such as this, where the nonprofit was put on the spot without having given an opportunity to clean up the problem. But having that support, I think, would be valuable for the whole system to be scoring higher, so that at the end of the day, we may actually be getting more dollars by investing in this relatively small position.
Okay. Laura, do you have comments you'd like to make on that?
You know, as somebody who was THP funded and lost that funding, I'm thrilled that people are having this conversation today, because I think it is difficult with the data. And as somebody who owns property, even when you look at occupancy rates, there's a significant difference in me having to turn a condo over after a family moves for whatever reason, versus us moving in to a landlord. And so I think sometimes data goes in, but paper lies still. And so I applaud the commission for actually having these discussions, but I think the situation with data and actually being able to look at, can we legitimately raise people's income when they're leaving a program, and is that a valid piece of data for us to be focusing on, or are there other things we can focus on that would generate a higher score for our COC?
So I want to make sure that we move on. Helen is like this.
It'll be quick, yes. We're about ending homelessness. Let's invest the money in ending homelessness through providing permanent supportive housing to our chronically homeless people.
So we have kind of a split view from the audience. What I'd like to put into the dialogue, we have a first and second for the HMIS. We are applying for the bonus grant for more permanent supportive housing dollars to the tune of money that would be
$1,085,000.
$1,085,000. So there is additional dollars that we are looking to do in some of that. It does sound like data is a key issue, and input from Susan is tied towards improving the data in our system as a whole. So my comment would be pointed in that direction to the motion that we have on the table. As far as keeping it towards the HMIS.
I'm okay with a substitute motion to that effect. If anybody wants a second.
I have a question. Really what we're trying to establish here is return on investment. We're saying we got 150,000, where's the best place to put it? The best place to put it, if I understand it correctly, will be what will make HUD the happiest. And if HUD is happy because our information's better and our, or we get more, it's like, where do we take this $150,000 and leverage it to gain more HUD dollars? And I don't have a feel for which is the better answer. I think they're both good answers. If we can take 3 people off the street, or 4 or 5, that's a good answer. If we can improve our information systems so that we can take more people off the street, that's also a good answer.
Just philosophically, I'm not really that, I don't have a really strong feeling either way. All I'm saying is to take money from John Henry, I really don't feel good about increasing a database or a dashboard or data, because I see that's going into staff. I'd rather have that reallocated to another program that kind of goes along the lines of some of the people in the audience. So I'm not gonna, it's not a lot of money, but I think philosophically, if you take one from one organization, you should end up with another organization, not necessarily with data.
Do we, if we went that way, do we have to make that decision today to know where it goes? Isn't that what we're here for?
Yeah, we do need to, because unfortunately we're on this train, and timing has to be.
So that makes a difference right now, we need to know where.
Can I just add something? When we got together, we wrote the 10-year plan, and it was not an easy process. It was painful, it was difficult, we had a lot of arguments. Larry, number one, he loves to argue, but he does a really good job, and he convinced us that our number one priority needs to be the data, because all your funding is based on the data. And yes, I've been a homeless person. I've been a database administrator for HMIS and a trainer. I've administered grants for American Family Housing, that one in particular I'm very familiar with. And I know all the issues, but I'm telling you, if your data sucks, your funding will suck. And we just need to bite the bullet and invest where, in the big picture, and I'm all about getting homeless people off the street permanently, but we're just not going to go anywhere. I just feel like the big picture, we need to address the data. We established a long time ago, before this commission existed, that data is the most important. And we need to put our money where our mouth is, honestly. Because we can help more people if we get our data act together. Would you agree, Karen?
I want to make sure that we can move forward. Catherine is
Yes. Oh, do you have a motion on the floor?
we have
The
questions.
motion was to reallocate to HMIS. What are you asking?
HMIS.
Reallocate John Henry to HMIS. That's the data.
Correct.
Okay, I just need to make sure everybody's, you
HMIS
draw
is
back.
the data.
I do need to say this right quick. Okay. One of the things is, ever since the first supernova came to this county, I was on that board. We did not get one dime because our data was not up to par. I have fought for homelessness ever since I can remember. I started at 13 with starting a business so I could feed homeless. If HUD wants data and we want their dollars, we're gonna have to stop skirting around. We gotta get our data in line. When we put our application in, I, for one, would not like to see our application in and 2 or 3 of our people do not get the money, but we don't get that money either. When we put our application in, we should have a confidence because we know our data is sharp and nobody has to be rejected. And that's what we did on the second time, and we got money. So you can keep pushing the data aside to do 1 or 2 more things, but the money's gonna keep being out of our reach.
One last question, do we have the authority to do what's being recommended?
In the application, how would we present it in the
It
application?
would just be a new project application for HMIS. It's an option, one of the 4 options for reallocated funds for new projects.
All right, then I'm good.
Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? I'm sure our three have abstained. Okay?
I have something to say.
Yes, what would you like to say?
My name is Arturo Sanchez, and I am from Nicaragua, and I am from American Family Housing, and I am very, I don't know this word. I want to say thank you to American Family Housing to let me live in apartments and have me an opportunity to be in an American Family Housing.
In Arturo, we are too. Thank you.
We all need to pray.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. You have one.
We have one more item that actually we skipped over, which is the brown bordered document.
Do I have a second? Any questions?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Any noes? And I assume we have our three abstentions. Thank you. And now we can have our friends come back. And then we will work through the rest of our meeting fairly quickly.
August 1st, and then Paul, yours is October. So far we have assessed 490 people. Of those, 170 that have been linked to housing. We've got 124 that have moved in. This is since last August. We've got another 46 that are matched. 180 that are document ready. One of the things we're hoping with this new housing capacity that we have, we'll be able to move people in. We still are struggling with the issue of affordability, right? Affordable housing. People who have felonies on their record, people who have pets in geography, and people who need help from an ADA standpoint, where they need to be on a first floor property. But we're really excited about that. The second thing that we've got is that we have started the rapid rehousing referrals. So those are for families and individuals. That started in July 19th, which is really exciting. And then last but not least, wanted to let you know that we've got a coordinated entry reentry working group, which is an interesting piece that we're working with, because we're hoping that we can start doing assessments and catching people as they're coming out of jails, so they're not just hitting the center street. And then when you just got the update on the policies?
I do. So there are several policies before you that are for the rapid rehousing in our community. HUD has requested that written standards be developed and policies be developed and come before your commissions and the COC boards that indicate how you will run your programs. And so we had similar policies to these come before you for the permanent supportive housing that we've already implemented for entry for. And this is basically the next set of policies for this type of housing, rapid rehousing. It's policies that talk about refusal and entries, how projects need to be run in terms of rents, all the details of how people are going to run the projects that are funded with COC funding. There's 3 policies before you, and they've already been approved by the executive committee. They've just been, they come to the full commission as well for review and approval. There's a 1-pager that has kind of a review of all the different policies. The prioritization, how we prioritize, and much of this comes straight from HUD language. So a lot of what you'll see in the policies is kind of a cut and paste of HUD direction and guidance that we also have to abide by. But the reason it does come before you is because with the NOFA, there is a request that we submit policies and standards have been approved by our continuum with the application. And so this is part of that package that we'll be submitting in September as well.
And to also add on to that, with these policies, while we had to work with HUD guidance, it was not done in a vacuum. It was done collaboratively with the community, with the providers, all weighing in and having input to this. So that's what went to the executive committee that was approved.
Support and housing we've received so far this year.
Complete request for all housing?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. I want to know how many people have been assessed, how many are in the queue?
How many people have called 211 looking for housing?
Oh, gosh.
Well, that's
That's
a
a,
211 question.
yeah.
Coordinated question.
Well, I'm just curious, do you have that information?
I have it back at the office, I don't have it off the top of my head.
Yeah. And the reason why I bring that up is that the association launched on the cities yesterday. And some of the points that were brought up were, in order to fix the problem, we need to understand it. So I'm just curious, I'd like to get that information for the future. So we know.
Absolutely. And I can tell you the majority of the calls that we get, the largest single group is for housing, but it's housing, it's rental assistance, it's a mixture, but absolutely.
Well, if you could break it out, I think it would be great. Because
Absolutely.
in order to fix the problem, we need to know.
Yeah.
what it is.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, move, do I have a second? Questions on these policies? Call the question, all in favor? Any no's? Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Okay. No votes yes, no vote.
I think we need to take a good look at ourselves also. When we look at the nonprofits, we're telling the nonprofits what they should do and what they can't do. But at the same time, who's looking at us? Who's really looking at us? And I can share from the last couple of weeks and months doing this, so I can see that we need to take a look at ourselves. And the reason why I say that, I see the process where points were taken off of nonprofits where it didn't have to be that way. We've got the letter of the law and we've got the spirit of the law. And if we truly want to accomplish our goals and mission of ending homelessness in our communities, we should be much more supportive of the nonprofits.
So in response to that, one of the things that Susan will be working with us on is kind of the overall direction with the commission, Billy, and looking at things that we put in place last fall, aligning ourselves with the Heart Act, how governance works. So I concur. So moving, Carolyn, you had a question?
No, I was just going to ask about the ACCOC cost study. Is that a different study than the current UCI study?
No, it's the same study. So we don't have a presentation, but I do have members from the public that wanted to address the group. Lou?
Can I say just one more thing related to the NOFA? Because I didn't mention it at the end of our conversation, just that the RFP is out for the new projects. And so we'll reflect the changes in the amounts. It will be deleting the amount for the reallocation. So the bonus project is focused on chronically homeless, and there's bonus points for those individuals, for those serving the severely chronically homeless. So it has a different emphasis this year in making sure that communities are prioritizing that particular group that have severe needs. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware that that's the focus of it, that we brought it to the commission's attention.
So for our, we only have a few minutes to close out our meeting. So I'd like that to address
Yeah, I'm a homeless advocate on Anaheim and Maxwell Park, La Palma, and now the Riverbed. I have been overwhelmed to see how many people out there disabled. And we actually have gotten a meeting with the mayor there, given some propositions of safe zones before the shelters open, which is not going to be enough for, 12,000 people out there or so. And you were talking about how HUD wants to get this homeless problem solved. I think by having those camping, which the cities have lots that they're open, that they could open. I know a lot of the problem is the communities coming unglued because they feel that homeless are going to come all over the place. But if every city had that, that would be a transition from them to go from there to either shelters or nonprofits. And another thing that I've noticed by talking to a lot of the homeless there, that I think that when they get put in a room with 2 or 3 people, they're really uncomfortable with others. I think that any of the housing facilities, the nonprofits, could actually accommodate them with booths, like we have in offices, participating, because a lot of them rather just live out there, get whatever money they have, and go in a hotel or so for a week or so, because they prefer to be that, because they like any one of us get stuck with 2 or 3 strangers in a room, and a lot of them, you know, there's very different issues. I had Dennis, who was here last time, a long time ago. The other problem that I noticed is that a lot of people out there are waiting for their Social Security, which gets denied 2 or 3 times. They drag it for a year or so. The HUD apartments, when they have to wait, even our veterans have to wait for 4 or 5 years before they could get housing, and so they're stuck out there. And I think that probably by having that, and I think, you know, it's more the city that has to actually do that, because, you know, we actually got that shelter since last year. We pushed, and finally the board supervisors and they got that thing going, but it's not open yet. It's just dragging along. And when we see the people out there, like I said, there's people out there that chronically homeless is within months they start losing it, and it's harder for that person to get back into society. As far as, you know, like Utah has implemented Homes First and given them, they have actually deterred homelessness out there.
Thank you.
But that's what that's my kind of opinion here.
So Curtis, Paul, and Donna and another previous spoken often before, so we only have a few minutes before we close. So Curtis, I'll start with you.
Hello, how's everyone? My name is Curtis Gamble. I'm a homeless activist, and I'd just like to thank all you guys for everything that you said and did today. I appreciate it on behalf of all the homeless people. I'm going to just share real quick. I know we're still working on the shelter on Kramer. So in the meantime, I've located this shelter. It's in Palm Desert, Palm Spring. It's about 80 miles from here. It's called Roy's Desert Resource Center. And what we're trying to do, they're already doing it. And they're more than happy to have some of our people come down right now, as a matter of fact, today. So they have a very good program. If you get a chance to look it up on the computer, and I'll share this with anyone before we leave. It's called Roy's Desert Resource Center.
In fact, that was one of the model studies that was used by the county a couple of years ago. So the county did look at that project and appreciate bringing it back up today as well.
Okay, thank you. And also one more real quick thing. I'll give you guys a list also, as I always do. The churches, this is all churches on this list, about 37 churches. They are feeding, taking care of the people as we speak, the homeless people as we speak, as we prepare the shelter. They are the ones who are doing the work. And if you would not just keep leaving them out. They should have a part in this. They should be here talking today, which I am speaking on their behalf. You guys are welcome to come to any of these dinners and see what they're doing. And so I'm going to end my speech right here, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Curtis. Paul, we just have a couple of minutes. Can you like to have you address this?
Yes. I've come up with a system for giving these guys, as this gentleman was saying, some privacy, but yet good security. Office, separate cubicles, but instead of the desk, make it a bed where you lift up the mattress and there's your storage, and they do have power for the computer, the cell phones, that they carry the tablets, and we're going to need to start checking these ambulances. Have the companies get together, build a list of who is, what addresses are valid and which ones aren't. We had a dump at a tire shop up on Orange Store from a hospital dump, where they bring them to the address and just leave them. We had 2 last year in our shelters, one in Fullerton and one at the Rain location in Santa Ana. And the guy from Santa Ana was an out-of-state, wasn't given a timeline, and he wanted to go home. But they didn't tell him anything.
Thank you, Paul. Donna?
Hi, I'd just like to tell you all, I'm not homeless anymore. We've had a place for 3 months, you got it right. Sponsored by Hope Lifted, Karen Hust at Hope Lifted. It is a nonprofit agency. They paid for us to get in there. They did everything for us. All the furniture in our apartment they paid for. They put the refrigerator in there, everything in there. And I just wanted you guys to know they're very helpful. And don't forget the nonprofit places.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donna. Congratulations.
Donna, what's the name?
Sure.
Any member comments before we close?
There's a group of us that are doing, trying to collect a by name list of homeless individuals, homeless families. And the process is slow, as you would, of course, imagine. We're going to be sending out a survey, and I don't care about the names specifically of the people that some of you are seeing. But for families, we'd like to know how many families people are seeing every month that are literally homeless. So we'll be getting that survey, but it is an effort to kind of give ourselves an idea of what's really out there and what people are seeing. So.
Great. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, two things quickly. Number one, I'd like to know if the nonprofits are aware that they can come to the meeting on data, especially the ones that can't afford to take some of their limited staff and have them try and keep this data so they can have some input on data. What's that, the implement?
Yeah, Kim Dahlsford.
Yeah, and number two, sorry, but I forget his name. Curtis, thank you. Curtis, you said you had, my husband's a vet, so when I hear the word vet, I have to perk up. On those vets that are homeless there, are they being informed that there are VASH vouchers that are set aside just for them, and they can go they can go in here or up to Long Beach and get a VASH voucher? That it's like Section 8, but it's a VASH voucher where it gets them right on in. They don't have that long wait and stuff. They can apply until they run out. Our county just got an additional 70 given to us by HUD because we've been doing such a good job. We didn't have our meeting this month, so I don't know if we have any left, but always refer them to the VA right here and also Long Beach. Because we contract with Long Beach for them.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. With that, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you again for general education.